Listen to this. A parent's own fear of strangers, not actual danger, but the fear of it, is literally the strongest force shrinking a child's world today. And the hard truth? It transmits straight to the child. Let that sink in for a second. We think we're protecting them, right? But the data actually shows we're passing down a limiting anxiety that fundamentally changes how they interact with the whole world.
So, welcome to this explainer. If you've got a kid somewhere between, say, 3 and 12 years old, you know exactly what that fear feels like right in the pit of your stomach. But our goal today, we're going to look at the hard data, disrupt that catastrophizing we all do, and empower you to build your child's secure, independent mobility. We're going to unpack exactly why kids fear getting lost, why our traditional protective instincts might actually be completely backfiring on us, and what the research says we really should be doing instead.
Okay, Section 1, Normal Anxiety versus Disorder. Let's dive right into this.
As parents, our baseline instinct is just to protect. When they cling to your legs like little barnacles at a crowded grocery store, it triggers absolutely every alarm bell we have. But separation anxiety is a completely normal stage. It typically emerges around, 8 to 10 months of age, hits its absolute peak right in the messy middle of toddlerhood, and then naturally fades in later childhood as their self-regulation matures. So that acute fear of getting lost, it actually sits right on top of this completely normal, totally healthy developmental foundation.
But there is a line where that normal developmental fear crosses over into something else. And we need to define the clinical reality here just to give you a really clear boundary. Separation anxiety disorder, or SAD, is defined clinically as childhood anxiety that is excessive, persistent, and impairing. We're talking about a fear that just doesn't fade with age and actually prevents a child from functioning in their day-to-day life. Think like absolutely refusing to go to school or being utterly terrified to even play out in the yard because they're so afraid of being separated from you.
Now, I want to offer a really warm but firm medical disclaimer right here. Please see a professional if your child's separation fear fits that description. If it's persistent, age-inappropriate, and genuinely impairing, there are highly effective evidence-based treatments out there, like cognitive behavioral therapy, and they carry incredibly favorable safety profiles. Honestly, getting outside help when normal fear crosses into impairment is a profound act of good parenting. You definitely don't have to navigate that alone.
Moving right along to Section 2, the fear transmission trap. We really have to confront a pretty stark contrast between what we imagine in our heads and what's actually happening in the real world. Thanks to media broadcasting, our collective parental nightmare is this imagined threat of stranger abductions. But statistically speaking, abductions by stereotypical strangers are extraordinarily rare. The actual factual result of all this constant worry is reduced independent mobility. By constantly guarding against a statistically minute threat, we are actively shrinking our children's world. We're reducing their physical activity, and we're literally stunting their spatial awareness. And it gets deeper, because the data reveals a pretty troubling gender disparity when we look closely. Take a look at this quote from a study published in the journal Health and Place. For girls, parental fear of strangers was associated with lower odds of independent mobility. Research consistently shows us that girls are disproportionately stripped of their healthy independence because of our parental fears. We pass our anxiety down, and we do it even more heavily to our daughters, actively restricting their movement and their confidence to navigate public spaces. It's wild to think about.
Which brings us to Section 3, building competence, not fear.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why we need a complete paradigm shift. We have to compare the traditional approach with what the evidence actually supports. The old way? That's fear messaging. Basically, scaring the child by drilling this concept of stranger danger into their heads over and over. But studies show this completely backfires. It doesn't actually make them safer. It just makes them view the entire world as one big hostile threat. The evidence-based alternative is skill building. This involves risk reframing, meaning addressing our own, let's admit it, sometimes ridiculous parental catastrophizing, so we can actually tolerate letting them explore. And we combine that with building real route familiarity and competence for the child. Now, the mechanism behind this alternative is actually rooted in the active ingredients of cognitive behavioral therapy, specifically graduated exposure and parent involvement. And the beauty here is that you can completely mimic this at home. You're not, throwing your kid into the deep end of downtown. You're exposing them to independence in gradual, super manageable steps. So maybe you let them play in the front yard alone for 5 minutes. Then next week, you let them walk to the corner of the street while you watch from the porch. You stay involved, but you act as a supportive coach, helping them master their environment.
All right, Section 4, the AAP Lost Child Plan.
To really replace all that panic with a practical, actionable plan, the American Academy of Pediatrics actually gives us a concrete, rehearsable blueprint. You teach this to your kids in case they ever do get lost. Step 1. Stop. Seriously, don't keep wandering around looking for mom or dad. Step 2. Stay put. It is infinitely easier for us to find a stationary child. And step 3. Find a safe helper. Notice the framing here. We aren't threatening them with scary scenarios. We're offering graduated mastery so that even in a terrifying moment, the child knows they have the exact tools they need to be the hero of their own journey.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is exactly who is a safe helper. This is where we have to definitively ditch that vague stranger danger rule once and for all. Think about it. If your child is lost, they actually need to talk to a stranger to get help. So, teach them specifically to look for really concrete visual cues. A uniformed worker, like a store clerk with a name tag or a security guard, or a parent who has kids with them. These are recognizable faces that a child can successfully and quickly scan for in a moment of panic.
Now for our final section, Section 5, Rehearsing Bravery Through Play. Which really brings me to a question I want to pose to all of you directly. How do we turn this into action? Like, how do you take these concepts of risk reframing, graduated exposure, and finding safe helpers and actually apply them in your chaotic, everyday life without just losing your mind to worry?
Well, one fantastic, super practical tool for this is the Fear Me Not app. This app is specifically designed to help kids turn that fear into rehearsed bravery, and it does it through play. It takes the exact principles we've discussed today, graduated exposure and skill building, and puts them into a really engaging format. It helps your child practice exactly what to do, building up their secure, independent mobility step by step. And honestly, it also gives you, the parent, a structured way to manage your own anxiety while tolerating their growing independence. It's a real game changer.
I want to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. Don't calm down. Conquer. Your protective instincts, they are completely valid. It is biologically hardwired into us to worry about our child's safety. But please, do not let that worry shrink their world. Conquer that fear by building their ultimate competence. Give them the skills, give them the rehearsed plans, and give them the graduated independence they need to safely and confidently navigate the world. So ask yourself today, what is one small step of independence you can let your child master this week? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.